Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be unboxing and reviewing Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor. So without further ado, let's just jump into this video right away. And like always, if you do go on to enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, leave a comment down below. And with that, let's jump right into the build. Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor was released on January 1st, 2025, and is set number 75401. Its target demographic is for ages 8 and up, and has a total of 290 pieces. It currently retails for $60 Canadian, $45 USD, and 40 British pounds. Overall, the price per brick comes out to about 21 cents, which is on the higher end for LEGO sets, and especially for Star Wars sets of this size. And last but not least, the box dimensions are 26 centimeters long, 19 centimeters high, and about 6 centimeters wide. So this set ended up taking me about 45 minutes to build, which is on par with all the other Jedi Interceptor sets. I don't know if that's necessarily fast or slow for someone like me, but I feel like all the other Jedi starships I've actually made was around 40 to 45 minutes, so it seems to be around on par. Overall, it comes with 3 bags. So the first bag, you actually end up building like the main cockpit itself, and then the other 2 bags, you're basically building like the left and right wing. There isn't really any major differences between bags 2 and 3, just because you're basically just mirroring the other wing to connect it to the cockpit itself. The first bag, you do get to build Ahsoka as a minifigure. The second bag was Anakin. The third bag was R7A7. So I do like that, especially when it comes to building these Jedi Interceptors, where it's like every bag you get to progress through kind of like the story of building it, and you get to build a different minifigure for each bag. I forgot to count, but I'm pretty sure that there was 12 stickers that went with this set. There was the 2 printed pieces, which are for the cockpit itself. I'm very happy that that wasn't a sticker. That is definitely something that needs to stay as a printed piece, because I feel like if it wasn't, it would look really off. So I am happy with that aspect of it. I do think that the control panel should not have been a sticker, and that should have just been a printed piece. I have seen that on other Jedi Interceptors, so I was a little bit surprised about that one. The set itself does come with 1 booklet, and it has a total of 80 pages. What I did like about the instructions for this one, which I'm assuming they're going to keep moving forward for all Jedi Interceptors, is that like they actually provide more of a visual aid on the booklet for when you have, like, for example, a white on white piece. So they'll actually like highlight it in green, which is something that I did actually enjoy, which I thought was kind of cool. At the end of the build, I did end up getting, I think, around 10 extra spare pieces. You do get an extra one of those like Jedi laser bolts that gets fired out of the Ahsoka like Interceptor, as well as an extra lightsaber handle, which is always pretty good to see. So this set does come with 3 minifigures. The first one, which is the main minifigure for the set, is Ahsoka Tano. The second one is Anakin Skywalker, and the third one is R7A7. So the main purpose of this set is that it's supposed to be Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor from the Clone Wars. So in the Clone Wars, she does actually fly multiple ships, but this is supposed to be her interceptor, similar to what Anakin has in like Obi-Wan throughout the Clone Wars series. When it comes to the minifigure herself, I find that this is more of like an adolescent minifigure, which kind of plays into a season 5 Ahsoka Tano in the Clone Wars. One thing I did find that was actually kind of cool was that like it does actually resemble a lot of like the outfits from, like, if you watch Tales of the Jedi, kind of like her flashback to her home planet with basically other members of her species, which I did think was actually pretty cool in that sense there. The one thing that I did not like was actually her dual lightsabers. There is a little bit of a time jump between when she has 1 green lightsaber to having 2 lightsabers, but the thing is that in the Clone Wars, her second lightsaber actually ends up being more yellowish. And the other thing too is that it is actually a smaller lightsaber. It's only when she actually ends up getting like the 2 blue lightsabers where she'll have 2 of the same size of lightsaber. But then later on in the timeline, when she purifies her lightsabers from when she kills the Inquisitor, I'm pretty sure those go back to being 2 different lengths, if I'm not mistaken. So the one thing I didn't understand about this one is why they just gave her 2 green lightsabers. So it would have been nice to see if they gave her more of a yellow lightsaber rather than just 2 green ones. I thought that was kind of odd. It was like one of the first things I noticed, especially since like watching the Clone Wars, and you kind of realize that like it isn't necessarily as accurate, and it doesn't really make any sense in that sense there. But overall, it's still a really cool minifigure. I love the hair piece that goes with it. Ahsoka as a minifigure, she actually does end up having 2 facial expressions. Either one looks really nice, so definitely a big ups for this minifigure. The second minifigure itself is Anakin Skywalker. The one thing I did notice about this one that I didn't really like was actually his facial expression, so we'll start with that one. Something that if you watch the Clone Wars, Anakin's actually very like positive and happy when he's around Ahsoka, and like centered around like their adventures between season 3 to season 5 of the Clone Wars. Anakin is actually happier during this period of time, from at least my perspective. So I would have thought they would have given him like a smiling or like a happy face rather than just like 2 stern different faces. When it comes to his actual outfit itself, this is where I was a little bit confused, because if you were to actually do the flashback from Ahsoka season 1, he is wearing more of the black style robes, whereas in this one here, it's kind of like the earlier robes from the very beginning of the Clone Wars season. So the last minifigure we have is the astromech. This is R7A7, and honestly, like, he's a pretty standard astromech. I do really like the like burgundy style red colors. Personally, I feel like the color combination on this one's really nice. I mean, a little bit of a hot take, but I definitely think he's better than the one that Obi-Wan has on his ship. I can't remember which one that was, like R5 if I'm not mistaken. So funny enough, with actually R7A7 is that he only gets featured in one episode of the Clone Wars in this specific Jedi Interceptor. So all the other ones, he's actually part of a different Jedi Interceptor. I just can't remember what the name was, but just some kind of fun fact about it. So I guess it kind of works out if it's only part of one episode. Like I mentioned before, my understanding is that this set is supposed to be based off the animated Clone Wars Star Wars series. Now, if that is the case, there's nothing wrong with that. The one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that basically that Ahsoka's Interceptor only actually gets featured in one episode. It's supposed to be season 5 of the Clone Wars called Sabotage, where Anakin and Ahsoka are in a dogfight, and then basically they're fighting with both of their interceptors as they're going into like the Battle of Cato. But again, with that being said though, when I do look at the back of the box artwork, I do feel like it does resemble a lot of the season 1 flashbacks of Ahsoka remembering her time with Anakin during like the Clone Wars battles against the Separatists. So it's kind of up to you guys to decide in the comments. I just feel like I kind of get a little bit of mixture of both, which would make sense because this set was most likely being designed during Ahsoka season 1, so they probably got inspiration from both of them. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I just definitely think it's a cool thing that I noticed on my end at least. The other cool fun fact about this starship is that it's called the Eta 2 Actis class Interceptor, and there are multiple versions of this. So like Yoda had a similar one, Obi-Wan, and same with like Anakin, and there's other Jedis as well. Like I think Plo Koon had a similar one as well, but it's kind of cool because this is kind of the same starship class, and then you know there's tons of other different starships that like Ahsoka flies throughout the series and all that stuff there. So after building the set, I do have a few thoughts about this, and especially when it comes to rating this set itself, I think compared to my other Jedi Starfighter Interceptors, it is actually much lower than all the other ones. I do feel like there's a lot of strong points, or a lot of, I mean not necessarily strong points, but like above average points, but I feel like some areas that of the build that could have definitely been improved in my opinion. So let's just kind of talk about it. When it comes to the first starters for the box artwork, it was pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward. Like I mentioned before already, it's kind of confusing if it's part of Clone Wars, part of some flashbacks from Ahsoka's time during Clone Wars. Either way, it kind of ends up being the same result. It's a typical Clone Wars box set, so I don't think there's anything like extraordinary about it, but I still think it's like above average, hence why I'm giving it kind of like an 8 out of 10. When it comes to the minifigures, my only critique really had to do with Ahsoka's lightsabers, because I felt like her as a minifigure was really well done, and then Anakin's facial expressions, I just feel like we're so used to seeing Anakin turn to the dark side, we forget that during the Clone Wars, he was actually like relatively happy and like excited to be training Ahsoka and being her master and all that stuff there, and like I feel like that's something that we forget and miss about Anakin as a character. We're always picturing him just before he turns to the dark side. So just that was just a little bit my critique. It would have been nice to see like a cool, happy facial expression like all the adventures that they go on. The overall build experience was pretty easy, which would make sense because this is meant for ages 8 and up. I don't think that's a negative in any way. I just think that it's basically what you're going to end up getting. You're getting a 290 piece set to build in about 40-45 minutes. It really shouldn't be that difficult at all. I found it very fun at the end of the day, and I absolutely love building these Jedi Interceptors, and I will continue to build them. And then obviously because this is a playable set, I did find it pretty durable. I'm happy that like the wings don't move, and it's just like you can basically just hold it itself. Nothing wrong with that. It's very easy to play with, and I don't see really any issues with that whatsoever. When it comes to the overall design accuracy of it, I didn't really feel like there was anything that stood out that was bad. I found like the use of the stickers on the wings was actually really well done, because you can kind of show like the fans or the exhaust area for those wings, or I'm assuming that's where like how the wings get cooled or however these engines work. But overall, I actually thought it was pretty well done, and I like the fact that they had stickers on both sides of like kind of like those wing pieces rather than just like on the one side. I really felt like that added more detail than anything. And again, this is where like all of these criteria are giving me like 8 out of 10s throughout this whole thing, because I think they're above average and I think they're pretty consistent. Where I feel like it fell short actually, and I've actually talked about this I think in different builds, I felt like the way you would display this is so weird, because I understand that like the side pieces of the wings are supposed to fold in and out depending on if it's active or not, but I really feel like they should have added like an additional landing gear piece similar to what they did with the Obi-Wan Starfighter, so that it's propped up a little bit more so it can display nicely. Like I don't really want to display the Interceptor with its wing flaps closed. I feel like the flaps open is what makes it an Interceptor, and I was a little bit disappointed because that's like a simple addition to the build that could have just made it so much better, and that's why I actually ended up downgrading it to about a 7 out of 10. But there is one major thing that we have not talked about which is basically my overall conclusion of this set. If you're new to my in-depth reviews, the one other thing I like to do with all my videos is I always like to ask myself the final 3 questions, or I like to call this segment the verdict. Now, what those 3 questions are is, number 1, what did I enjoy about this set? Number 2, what would I change about this set? And number 3, do I think it's worth purchasing in 2025? So the first question is, what did I enjoy about the set? It's pretty simple. I just enjoy having another Interceptor or another Jedi Starfighter in the collection. I think overall, like, I think they do a really good job at building these Jedi Interceptors. I also feel like that they are relatively accurate, and I don't find there's any big discrepancies where you're like, what is this? And or make me question if I should even buy it. So for me, that's what I enjoy. I get to build another Interceptor that I get to add to my collection, and I'm totally fine with that. Number 2 is what would I would change? I would change 3 things in this set. The first one is reducing Ahsoka's Jedi lightsaber, or even changing the color. If they reduced the height of it and made the argument that it's like yellowish green, I'd be fine with that. I just feel like her having 2 lightsabers is actually a big part of her development as a character when it comes to her combat style, and I just feel like it's a little bit lazy if you just kind of include 2 of the same size lightsabers, but you know, that's just my opinion. The second thing I would also do is I would have Anakin have a little bit more of a happier facial expression. Just feel like that we miss that a lot with Anakin, and we always get his serious side, and it'd be nice to actually have more of his playful side. And then number 3, I would add on those leg pieces for the landing gear. Even in the show, and all Interceptors have some sort of landing gear, I just feel like in this one here, they don't really utilize that in that case. And I'm not totally sure why, because I've seen them do it in other builds, and it doesn't take up that much space, and they can hide it pretty well. And so then the last question we have is this set worth buying in 2025? The short answer is absolutely not. This set retails for $60 Canadian. I did not buy this set for $60 Canadian. I actually found it on Marketplace for, I'm pretty sure it was like 20 bucks. In my opinion, you should not spend more than like $30 on Jedi Interceptors. And I'm pretty sure that's how they all started around retails. Like, I think the Obi-Wan one and the Yoda one was like $25 to maybe maximum $35. Why this set is priced at $60 makes absolutely no sense. There's no big differences between this set and any of the other Jedi Interceptors. And especially when it comes to size of them, it's like relatively the same size as like the Obi-Wan one, and like a little bit bigger than the Yoda one. And I'm pretty sure the Obi-Wan one was like retailed at like $35 Canadian. So honestly, no. The only reason why you should buy this set is just because of the fact that you want to include it as part of your Interceptor collection. But if that's the case, just like try and find it secondhand or off of Marketplace or anywhere, even off of eBay if someone's selling it for a decent price. But $60 is absolutely not worth it whatsoever. I would strongly encourage not to buy it at that price. So yeah, with all that being said though, that is my in-depth review of Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor. I hope you did go on to enjoy this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts of this set itself. And most importantly, I will see you guys next time for a brand new video.